Hi everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, and this is Connor.
Hey guys.
We're going to talk about The Night Of, which is a new limited series from HBO. It's going to be 8 episodes. It airs the first episode this coming Sunday, but they put the first one up early on all their streaming services, HBO Go, HBO Now, and whatever else they've got. And so we're going to talk about it. It's episode 1, of course. It is called The Beach, and it is a murder mystery thriller. And that's pretty much all I really want to say about the plot, because we're going to start spoiler free, but we'll keep that short. First things first, watch it, because it's fantastic.
It is just phenomenally good.
It really is. We follow a character named Noz through, you know, this one night in October 2014, and it's just, that's all you really want to know going into this, because it unfolds.
Yeah, I don't think I even knew that much when I started watching it. And so I didn't even know it was a murder mystery sort of thing. I had no idea what I was getting into, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, the pacing's excellent. It goes through. That's the one thing I will say is this first episode is 78 minutes long. It is epic length.
You
Because
don't feel it though.
sorry.
You don't feel it.
Well, you do and you don't. Like, you don't in the sense that it feels like it's dragging or anything like that. But at the same time, I didn't know how long it was before I put it on.
Right.
Right, and I got to a point where, like, this has been on for a while now. I feel like this should have ended already. And I checked the runtime and how much was left. I was like, holy shit, 78 minutes.
What I mean is it never feels like a detriment to it. It never feels like it's being dragged out at all.
Nah.
It just goes.
Nah, it feels like a movie. It feels like they're shooting on location in New York. Everything looks great. Everything's directed very well. There's suspense that really sits with you the entire time.
Yeah, there's often it's just a sense of unease that just it's just there and it's just so well directed.
Yeah. The names that you would recognise from the cast, like John Turturro, don't even show up until very late on in the episode.
Yeah,
And
Riz Ahmed's, I mean, recognizable after Nightcrawler, I suppose.
is that the main guy?
Yeah.
I didn't even recognise him.
Oh, did you not?
No.
No, he's the kid in Nightcrawler, isn't
Yeah,
he?
no, no, now that you've said it, yeah, I know who
Yeah.
you're talking about. But yeah, no, I never even placed him. I think his dad as well. I don't know if it is for sure, but he looks like the guy who was in A Separation, which was an Iranian film
I never
uh,
saw it, so I can't
from
comment.
about 5 years ago or so. He looks like the same guy. It's the beard. He has the very same beard. um,
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. But
so I think that's him, but I could be wrong. Uh, yeah, Michael K. Williams is meant to be in it. I didn't see him in this episode, so presumably he's going to pop up in coming episodes. But it's just very, like, it focuses on these unknown people for the most part.
yeah,
Because I went into this, I'd seen the poster, it was John Turturro. I'm like, alright, he's my main character. I went in, I'm expecting John Turturro, and I get this kid, this 20-something-year-old, and you follow him, and you just, what happens, and we need to go into spoilers, because I can't really say anything.
there's.
I can't, there's
I
nothing
will
to
say,
say.
like the acting, especially from him, is fantastic.
Oh
He
yeah,
carries
acting's
it.
great, yeah.
He absolutely carries this entire episode.
Everything feels very authentic as well. Every time he speaks to police officers or anything like that, everything feels very genuine.
Yeah, and like I said, you can tell it was shot on location because everything feels like real
Yeah.
places and the distinct areas of New York that they talk about like feel distinct.
Yeah. It does not feel cheap in any way.
No, there is a serious level of quality going on in the production.
That's could have easily. I mean, obviously, it would need an ending, but it would be a movie. It feels like it is a movie.
It feels like the first half of a movie essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. If you've not watched it yet, do not listen to the spoiler section. Go watch it. Trust me, just do it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It is the best first episode of TV we have seen probably since Mr. Robot.
Yeah, this is the best thing I've watched in months, and
And that's
I,
not to say
I
we've not been enjoying stuff the last few months. It's just this is another step up. This is
yeah, it's hard to imagine that I'm gonna watch anything this week that's gonna beat this.
yeah. Truly special first episode of TV. So check it out. Go watch it. So spoilers from this point on. Full spoilers. You have been warned. Let's get into this. So we're introduced to Nas, and we get. At first, I wasn't really. I mean, there wasn't anything exciting at the start because he's just. This is him. He's at university or whatever. He's tutoring, one of the basketball players, and we introduced his family, and he gets invited to a party with his friend that he wants to go to, and the friend sort of bails on him and doesn't. And all this is just kind of there's nothing wrong with any of this part, but it's just kind of okay. We're just getting the.
I think the thing that is good though is I was still invested immediately because all the dialogue just felt natural.
It did, yeah.
It just felt like this is a real person, and that immediately helps hook you into that person there, that character.
It did, and this is something I'll talk about a lot as we talk about the next section. But immediately, because of his ethnicity, I immediately thought, all right, this is playing into this, because obviously I know it's a murder sort of mystery thing. I'm like, people are going to assume he's guilty of things because of who he is.
Do you know what? That's something I really liked about this show. The way they showed racism that doesn't just come from white people.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
obviously racism happens between all different cultures, but I feel like on TV it's often boiled down to white versus
evil.
everyone else.
Yeah.
Whereas this was much more complex than that, and
Yeah,
it was
like
really good to see.
There's a black guy who's racist towards him. There's, it goes in every direction.
Yeah, and I think that's just so much more realistic. I mean, it's a good thing that that's the reality, but it's nice to see a realistic representation.
Well, it goes back to that word authentic. Everything feels authentic in that sense. But where this show begins really is when he takes his dad's keys for his taxi cab, gets in the taxi, and that's where the story really begins.
Yeah,
and that's where everything just sucked me in, because just him driving on his own before anything even happens in the middle of the night in New York City just has so much atmosphere and feeling to it.
It's just got style, hasn't it?
It's got style. And what this next chunk, the middle chunk of this episode, which is, it's not most of it, I suppose there's all after as well, but you know what I mean, like the main, him in the cab, meeting the girl, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
The directorial style is very specific because it knows we know this is a murder mystery, and it makes a point of lingering in every single thing that will be brought up later. Like when he goes into the store to buy a water and a drink for the girl, and you see the camera just linger on the security cameras, you're like, that's coming up at some point. And it doesn't in this episode, but I know that's getting brought up.
It must be.
Yeah, as soon as she hands him the knife in the house, I'm like, shit, his fingerprints are on the knife now. What? No. I don't know why, but I'm assuming he's innocent.
I think the assumption is that he's innocent because we don't see him do anything.
Yeah, but even before anything happens, I'm assuming he's going to be wrongly accused.
Well, yeah, I think that's because, for the most part, we follow the good guy in stories.
Well, I think it's partly that. I mean, I think a big twist would be if he had done it, and then that would be a big thing. But I think the reason why you immediately assume he's innocent is because, A, everything we see of him seems nice and friendly.
Yeah.
He doesn't in any way feel like he is a bad person. And this is kind of bringing the race thing into it, is you almost feel like you're expecting people to assume he's guilty because of his race, and that makes you on his side. It makes you feel, no, fuck you, he didn't do this.
Yeah, the show does play into that. We'll get to it later with the witness.
Yeah.
Where, I don't know, let's just mention it now. Like, when he says about the description, they ask him what was the race of the guy that you saw. And he goes, oh, light-skinned, black, maybe Asian. And they go, oh, so he wasn't Caucasian then? And he's like, no, I guess he could have been. But it just shows that people go to that first.
Yeah, I mean, that example specifically, I like that because it wasn't... I didn't really feel like that guy was even having a racial bias. I feel like he was just... It was dark. He looked like he was darker skinned, but not really dark. So he was having trouble calling it. Because at first I wasn't even sure what race the guy was when the episode started until it became clearer as we spoke to his family and stuff. He could have been Italian or something almost.
Yeah, but I think the point is they had to probe. The police had to probe him to ask if he could have been Caucasian. He didn't offer that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right. But I like that. I like that there was that uncertainty. It wasn't clear because it isn't necessarily always clear. A lot of races do blur together in that sense.
It's kind of just like olive skin almost. There's a lot of areas that could be. Like say Italians, even Spanish maybe.
Yeah, and it's night time, and they all, it's hard to say, but so he's in his dad's cab, and he has like almost a fight with two people who jump in the back of the cab because he can't turn the off-duty light on or off.
Can't find the switch.
Yeah, he can't find the switch. Which, to be fair, I wouldn't know what that is either. So
I wouldn't either, but
fair
it was
enough.
amusing just watching the windshield wipers just go instead.
Yeah, that was amusing. But again, the idea that that cop car rolls up beside him and helps him out because the guys won't leave his cab. I'm thinking, all right, this is good. Cops seen him, and well, it might not be good or bad, but like it's like this is another thing that will come up later. That these cops
it places him at a certain time.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But then she gets in the cab, and right away he's kind of like his character. We've seen that he's kind of shy and he's wanting to meet girls. So this girl gets in his cab, and he immediately just kind of like goes with it and is like, okay, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And I think my immediate thought is, and this is kind of how sucked I'm into the show at this point, is that as soon as he's like, okay, where do you want to go? I'm like, if you'd have just stayed home, this is going to go down a bad path, and if you'd have just stayed home, now this would happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she says she wants to go to the beach. So right away she's kind of weird because she's like, the beach, like we're in the middle of New York. Well, the river will do then. The river will do. I don't imagine the river in New York is particularly nice. I'm speaking from experience from our rivers in our cities. The ones that are in the middle of the cities tend to be kind of shitty, but
Yeah. But I suppose when it's night, you can't see all the shit in it.
yeah, I suppose.
So it's just running water at that point.
Yeah. But basically, they essentially have a kind of almost before sunrise kind of little romance that blooms out of this, where they just kind of like get together, even though she's clearly like in a really rough place because she's taking all sorts of drugs, and at one point I was like questioning how many fucking types of drugs does she have on her.
I know. We see at least what, two?
At least
three?
two, because she has a pill which I'm assuming is ecstasy, and cocaine later on.
Yeah.
And she's like constantly drinking booze and whatever. Like, but she's clearly in a bit of a mess in her life. Whoever this woman is. Her name was Adriana, I think they say her name is later.
Andrea.
Andrea, yeah, something like that. Cause,
I think it's Andrea, yeah.
And they kind of bond over whatever when they're sitting by the river and stuff, and she takes him back to his place. And again, we see she's
Her
kind
place.
of... Sorry?
Her place.
I said that, did I not?
You said his place.
Oh, her place then, sorry. Wrong pronoun. But she's immediately kind of like fucked up because she's like wanting to like try knifing your hand and missing. Like after like either taking a shot or taking something stronger, and she's like, and the whole time I'm on edge because I'm like,
yeah, it's like, oh my god, you could just see a finger going.
Yeah,
as well.
I'm on edge because of the literal thing that's happening of the knife going into like almost going into hands. But then I'm on edge because his prints are on the knife.
Could be blood here, Yeah,
as soon as like, he does stab her hand accidentally.
How she doesn't react, that's how you know she's really off her fucking head.
Yeah, she's done so much shit at this point, she's not even reacting to a knife going through her hand. But even at that point, she starts kissing him, but all I can think is, there's blood coming out of her hand that's no one has shot. Like, I'm thinking about the evidence, I'm thinking about the DNA. There's now blood on his shirt that's hers from her hand. And we know it's innocent. Well, as innocent as you can be in this situation.
There was nothing wrong with what he did. Like, I mean, it was an accident. She was fine with it, clearly.
Yeah, it was her fault. Regardless of what happened, it was her fault.
Yeah.
She forced him to do it. And they go up and they have sex, and that's where it kind of breaks time, because it's not in real time, like the whole episode, but it feels kind of like it is to this point. It feels like you're following the events very sequentially. Actually, one thing I want to point out before we go any further, I glossed over this at the start. See when he leaves to get in the cab, I love that it goes back in the house with the camera and it comes up the date.
Yeah.
I really like that. It reminded me oddly of Paranormal Activity, the way the date would come up, but it felt like evidence in a weird way, where it came up and it was like, alright, shit's going to happen.
Before we go any further as well, there's something I want to, when he goes to the gas station and there's the guy, where she flicks the cigarette out, and there's the guy, and it kind of implies that he's sort of following her.
It does, because that whole thing's weird. Yeah, I kind of skipped past that because I was getting to the murder.
Yeah, but I think this is kind of important.
So they go to the gas station, and that's where he buys the water and all that. And while he's in, that weird, the hearse driver,
Yeah.
uh, has that interaction with her, and he's sort of sitting there like looking really weird the entire time, and Naz comes back out, and he sort of notices that he's sitting there looking kind of weird, and he even comments on it when he gets in the car. And then we cut to the security camera, which, by the way, again, great. I love when it did this, when it cut to that, and then later on it cut to the police cam dashboard.
It's so clever.
Yeah, it just, the whole thing feels really authentic, and and then they drive away, but it lingers on the security camera for a bit, and the hearse doesn't move, but he kind of gets back in the car. You see him,
You can see that you see him watch the cab leave,
yeah,
and then as soon as it's gone, he's in his car.
yeah. And what's really smart about all this is, in this way of like planting out all the pieces of the puzzle that are going to come up later, is the it's unique enough that we're always going to remember those a hearse.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not just a generic car.
yeah,
Is it?
had it been a generic car, it'd be like, okay, I'll remember. Like when they bring it up, yeah, okay, there was a car there. But it's very, very smart for them to pick something as unique as that, because we're never going to forget that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart. So, props to that. But yeah, so they've had sex in the house, and he wakes up downstairs, which right away is like, okay, this is weird. How did he get downstairs? But the fact is we know they're both like. I mean, even he's full of so much shit at this point as well, because she made him take everything.
Yeah, you'd be like comatose essentially.
Yeah, so anyone could have carried him down, right? Which is, I guess, our line of thinking. But this is where, like, as on edge as I was before all this stuff, this is where the tension really ramps up, and where I'm like almost screaming at the TV at this point. Not literally, because I don't do that. I'm quiet. I'm reserved. But internally.
You're sitting back in panic, going, "Come on, don't do this."
Yeah,
Come on.
because everything he does in the next like 5 minutes is wrong. He makes
Yeah.
so many mistakes. It is absurd. The first thing he should do when he goes up and finds that boy. By the way, I love when he goes up and he turns on the light and you just see the blood everywhere, and he turns it off.
Yeah, it's just, nope.
Yeah, yeah. That was really cool. But like the first thing you do, just call the police. I know it looks suspicious. I know you're maybe even thinking because of your race you're going to be looked at differently or whatever. But just fucking the first thing you do is call the police. And you can see him thinking about it. He considers it almost.
Yeah, that's the thing. It seems obvious from an outside perspective.
It does,
but
it does.
it's that it's in the moment. You're just
Yeah.
in
Oh,
that
don't get
much
me wrong.
Panic.
This
Yeah.
isn't like a horror movie where I'm like, what are you doing, you dumb bitch? Don't run up the stairs. It's not like that. It's
Yeah.
not like that. I completely understand why he does what he does,
But it's still all wrong.
but I know it's wrong. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no. Think about this. Stop it. Because not only does he try and flee, right? Now, he does do the kind of smart thing on picking up the knife, because he realises, oh, that's suspicious, my fingerprints are on that. Even though it's bad in the long run, because if they find that on him or anything like that, then that's
worse. Yeah.
worse. But not only does he try and flee, he runs down the street. He bolts. Like, walk slowly. If you don't want to look suspicious, walk casually. Like, you're just out for a stroll. He bolts it as if he's terrified.
Yeah.
And then he has to get back in and break the window to get back in, because he's obviously locked himself out because he's not got his keys.
As soon as the cab didn't open, I was like, he's just locked himself out.
Yeah.
Just,
And that's what's good about this. So much of this episode was show and don't tell.
yeah.
It was letting us figure things out as they were happening, and just witnessing all the pieces.
Yeah, there's another thing that's amazing where a lot of it feels obvious. Like I just said, like he's locked out, and you know that moment is coming where he gets back up to the door, but it's played so well that it doesn't matter that you know it was coming.
Oh yeah, because it's actually quite an ingenious thing when you think about it, that they do it in such a way where we figure it out in advance. It's kind of obvious to us, but not to the character, which could be annoying if he's just being an idiot, but it actually works because you completely get that in that moment you'd be flustered enough that you wouldn't,
You wouldn't think, you just get out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely viable the entire time. So he gets back in, grabs his jacket with his keys, and fucks off into the taxi. And of course, when he's breaking the window, that's when the neighbour across the street sees he hears a noise, sees him breaking in, and sees him running out and getting into a cab. And So then he's driving back, and I'm like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Like, because at this point, I'm not sure how this show's going to work. Like, is he going to get home and we're going to follow the police investigation without him, and then
Yeah.
it'll intercede later when they like track him down? You know, like, I wasn't sure if that's how it was going. And then you just see the police lights flicker behind him before they make the noise.
Yeah.
Because I noticed them before it was apparent that that's what was going on, but I was like, is that a police car? And then you just hear the noise, the siren for him to pull over.
So clever.
And I'm just like, oh, shit.
Your heart kind of drops for him. Like, you're just like, oh, no.
Yeah, it really, really, really tense at this point. Like, everything's just... Like,
Every moment here on out is completely just on edge.
yeah, because the cops come up and they just... Because he turned left when he wasn't meant to turn left. There was a, one-way street, presumably, and he went down and...
Yeah, there was a sign that just said no left turn, so he turned left.
Yeah, that's what got him caught here.
Yeah.
All of that. That's all it was. And the two cops, again, I really liked. Because what was good about these two cops, because there was a black woman and a white man who are partners here.
Yeah.
And they, right away, you get a sense of character. Like, she isn't really wanting to let him off with something. Like, she wants to do this by the book.
Yeah, she's very much wants to do the job exactly how it's got to be done.
But and at the same time, the other guy doesn't feel like he's been this caricature, or just leave it. He's just, like... Again, we keep using the word authentic, but it feels like real people who... He's not like someone who wants to let people off with things. He's just like in this situation where we've got like a break-in over here. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing, because she wants to do a breathalyzer test.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, he's clearly not drunk. We can see that. Is it worth it for the sake of, oh, he didn't turn left? Or he turned left, sorry.
Well, because he goes and checks his record and he's like, there's nothing on him. He's never been arrested before. He
Yeah.
seems to be a good kid. Like, like, he's just like, let's just leave this because we've got a more important thing to do elsewhere.
But she's having none of it.
Yeah. Yeah, she's having none of it, so she puts him in the back of the car, the cop car.
Also, that moment just before where he's got his hands on the cab, and he lifts it, and there's blood there from his hand.
Yeah, you see that there's still blood in his hand, yeah.
Oh, well, and then he's like trying to cover it up from her. It's just a fantastic moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a knife on him, covered in blood.
Yeah, because the guy on the bike was looking in and he thought he could see it, so he put it in his jacket, so it wasn't on show.
Yeah. So all we've heard at this point is a break-in. That's what we've heard over the police radio. And they start driving the street, and it's... I don't know exactly what point it became apparent to me that they were driving back to the house he just left.
See, I got it as soon as they said it was a break-in. Because I thought, he can't have gone that far.
Yeah, no, it made sense that they were in the vicinity, because they were still relatively near to it. But I think it was just, like, as they were driving down the street, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same fucking street. And then he said, wait, what street is this? And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is bad. And then so he's in the car the entire time, and the neighbour who saw him but didn't get a good look at him is kind of like lingering about and looking at the car, and there's moments of will it, won't they, and the cops like get back up, so now there's 4 cops, and they go in with their flashlights, and we never see it inside the house at this point either. We just see like
we stay with him. Yeah,
we stay with him in the car, and we see his perspective of just seeing the light coming through the windows as they're searching.
So effective though, because we know what's in there as well as he does, and you can just imagine their reaction to what's going on, and realizing that this is way more than just a break-in.
Yeah, that really, really tense. And then the cops come out, and like one of them's like vomiting and whatever else, and the whole thing, and the next like 15-20 minutes play out really methodically, but the whole thing's so tense because he's sitting in the back of that car. You know, the detective comes in and goes and looks at things. People keep asking who he is, because like, why is he in the back of the car? What's he got to do with this?
Yeah, because everyone assumes that he's to do with this break-in.
Yeah, they all assume that he's to do with that. Even to the point where when one of the detectives finally says, right, go and take him back to the station, the cops who actually take him on the journey, who didn't arrest them, think he's still to do with that. Because when he asks, is she dead, the cop doesn't even react to it. He's like, yeah, it looks fair to say.
They say just before that as well that they think he's a witness.
Yeah. So
because then they're like, oh, and then he goes, oh, what'd you see? And he's like, nothing. He goes, some witness you'll be.
Yeah. So that even like, in my head, I'm thinking when this comes out later that he said that,
Yeah.
Now he's suspicious because he's not meant to know anything about this. So again, it's that thing where it was even when they were in the house, when he was in the house with the woman before they had sex. Like it lingered on the bottom of the stairs where like a little bit of blood was like streaked or things like that. There was lots of little details like that again just kept adding up and building this.
John, really quickly while we're in that area, I was impressed for HBO that they showed the restraint in the sex.
Yeah, there wasn't lots of tits and like screaming and
Especially given how we spoke on the Roadies review of how cable TV often feels just because it can.
yeah.
This felt really toned down by cable standards.
It did. They didn't need to go on the
No.
the over the top sex scene, and they didn't. They kept it fairly restrained, which was
Yeah.
it was nice. It wasn't needed.
Yeah.
It really wasn't. So he's back at the station now, right? They've brought him back to the station, and if you think the tension's over, it's not. He's sitting there in the police station, looking over at the door, thinking, "Can I make a casual walk for it?" Because even the guy at the desk, the cop at the desk, doesn't really know why he's there.
Yeah, he has no idea.
Yeah, and it's just the whole thing just feels so like awkward and tense. It is kind of masterful in that sense. Meanwhile, we're intercutting with the detectives who's now at the scene, and they're taking pictures of the crime, and this is where it kind of starts to open up. And this is also where we see like Nazi's family wake up and realize he's not there, and they start calling around, calling his phone, calling his friend, and so
Yeah.
on.
See, this is where I got a little. I mean, how late is it at this point? Because obviously we know by the time the cop comes in later, it's 6 in the morning.
Speaking of cops,
I know. So what time's this? Like 3, 4?
it's about 4 at this point, yeah.
Right. Seems weird to immediately jump to phoning the hospitals.
Well, no, this is after they phone his friend, though, and his friend doesn't know what it is, because they thought he was with him.
Yeah, but like that's what I mean. Wouldn't they just still assume, oh, he's still at the party and he'll come back in the morning? Wouldn't you wait till like the morning? Because he could have just slept over at the party and stayed there, crashed there, and come back the next day. Feels a bit. They knew he was going to this party because he told them.
Yes, but I think that maybe speaks to his character and that he's not the kind of person who does that normally.
Sure, but I still feel like they would have You'd just wait till morning at least and see if he shows up before you go that out of it.
I would agree if they didn't phone his friend and his friend had no idea where he was, because he was meant to be going to the party. Because they never know the friend cancelled on him. So when the friend's like, "No, I never showed up. I never went with them. I never picked." I think that's the point where I buy that they're worried.
Fair enough.
Well, not only that they're worried and he's not answering his phone. Like, all of it adds up, I think.
See, for me, I'd just be well, I knew he was going to the party. Even if the friend didn't go, he probably went anyway. It's 4 in the morning. He could have crashed by now. That's why he wouldn't answer his phone, because, he'd be asleep. He'll come back in the morning. I'd think you'd go with that before you go, let's phone every hospital in the city.
They only phone one hospital.
No, and then they immediately phone another. He starts flicking through the book.
I don't have a problem with this. I felt like there was enough there to justify this.
Fair enough.
Because honestly, I think certain parents would do this.
Fair enough.
I think my mother would do this if I was like still that age and she couldn't get a hold of me.
I don't know, but I'd think that people would leave it till morning. But maybe that's just what I'd think.
Yeah, well, not all of us are the type that stay out at parties at 4 in the morning.
Well, no, I'm just thinking like you know they're going. It's not like you didn't even know he was leaving the house. That's the thing. You'd think, oh, maybe things just he had some drinks and he couldn't get a lift back, or like whoever was the driver, he couldn't get a lift back, so they've stayed over there. Just wait till the morning. There's a million reasons why you would stay out an extra few hours and just think, well, I'll wait till it's light.
To be fair, they did bring up what should be phone the police, and they said no, we'll wait till morning. So that kind of came into it. So they're not completely going away from what you said.
It did, which is why I feel like it's still a little bit of an overreaction when they have even considered this. It's not a massive thing, don't get me wrong, but I did notice it when I was watching.
Maybe that speaks again to the racial issues. Like they think he's more likely to be in trouble because of his race.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It didn't bother me. It felt set up well enough to me to buy
Fair
that.
enough. It is pretty much my only complaint though, so you know.
To the point where I didn't even think about it. It wasn't until you mentioned it that I've started deciphering
Well,
it.
it was just when I was watching it, it really stuck out to me personally. But whatever, it wasn't that big.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and we see the police try to collect certain various things of evidence. They talk to the witness from the thing. They talk to the other the black guy who was racist to him earlier on in the night.
Yeah.
Made the
Although he gave a very interesting little statement, didn't he? Because obviously he says, "Oh, it's him," but the cop asks him, "Were you alone?"
yeah.
Says yes, and it was especially because when we saw them being racist earlier, it lingered on the friend.
Yeah, so that's this guy. It was two black guys who were sort of walking past as they were going into her house, and one of them makes some racist comment about "Did you leave your bombs at home?" or something to that
I
effect.
can't even remember what it was now.
Yeah, it was something like that. "Did you leave your bombs at home, Ahmed?" or something. And he has a bit of an altercation where he's like, "What did you just say?" And he kind of backs down. Like it's just, you feel like they might be about to fight, but he backs down from it because
Yeah.
I mean it's not worth it. Let's be honest. And the guy who made the comment is the one who we see later on, but he had a friend who was just quiet the entire time, and he kind of lingers and stares after they go into the house. So again, we're like, oh, is he get something to do with what's going on here?
There was another thing when I didn't quite catch it when he was giving his testimony, and the cop asked him to select on the pictures which one he was in the lineup. Was it him that he chose?
It was, yeah.
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 I didn't quite catch it because I had.
It looked a little bit different, but I think that was just like passport photo thing. Where
Yeah. That's why I wasn't quite sure, and it was like, was that him or was that him just being racist? And like,
nah, it looked like him.
right, okay.
I thought it was, yeah. It looked like a different haircut, but it looked like him.
It was the haircut that was throwing me off. I was like, is that him?
But no, it was interesting. I can't remember everything he said, but even a lot of the stuff that he said when he was being interviewed about the race, and like the cop kept having to try to dig to get him to be more specific, and he couldn't be more specific because he didn't really differentiate. It was just like,
Yeah, because when they asked him who he was like, oh, some Arab, and he's like, yeah, look, Puerto Rican. He goes, well, was he Puerto Rican? I was like, could have been. I don't know. But it's another one of those things where they jump to the conclusions first, where they go, he was an Arab. First things first.
which I think actually, if anything, I think this show's showing the police officers in the program in a very good light because they're being very thorough in getting them to make those distinctions.
Yeah, and it's not just the white police either. They all are. It's not like they're elevating anyone. It's the police as a whole are doing.
Oh yeah, all of them. Yeah, they're all being very thorough and.
Apart from the guy at the desk who's just like, I sent it off.
Oh yeah, he's talking about evidence.
Yeah,
he's just like, whatever, fuck off. It's been a long night. Go away. He's just grumpy at his job.
Yeah.
But everyone else, like, because the detective that comes to speaks to Nas, and I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but when he's actually like sort of found out and they're interviewing him, he's very pleasant to him. He tries to be really kind of calm and collect and asks him to explain things. And it's a very frustrating scene to watch as a viewer because we have all the information for the most part that he has.
Yeah.
And he's not delivering it very well, and it's very frustrating. It's like, no, say that this happened, then this happened. Don't, but you're blurting out random parts of it, and it's making you sound crazy. Stop it.
Yeah. The police officer even tries to explain that to him. It's like this won't go down well if you say it like this. There's a camera there that's recording all of this, and that's going to get played back. So just try and say it how it happened.
Yeah, because I mean maybe I'd be too much and short the end, but I think at least in my head right now I'd be like, no. As soon as he asked me to explain things, I would immediately start with, well, I stole my dad's cab, and then I would tell him everything. I'd fucking give him an essay.
You'd think you would, yeah, but it's just, that's the thing, isn't it? But either way, he is very fair in the way he asks him his questions. He never feels like...
Is.
It's interesting because later on it implies that, he was actually being quite sly without doing, like, offering him a lawyer and shit like that. But he feels at the time very fair and asking him in a very collective
Because
manner.
even when he's asked that question later, did they say you had to talk without a lawyer? And he's like, no, they didn't. In fact, because he's very the cop's very honest to him the entire time. He's like, you don't have to do this, you do have to do this.
But it will look bad,
Yeah. Yeah. So he's very forthcoming for the most part with them. So you don't even even though you're with the main character and he's kind of who you're like going through with this,
Yeah.
you never feel like they villainize any of the police.
No, they're just doing their jobs, really.
Yeah, they're just doing their jobs. They feel reasonable enough with everything they're doing. Maybe the guys who like make them strip feel a bit rough.
Yeah, those ones did.
Uh, but I don't know if that's just like that sort of mentality where you have to kind of be forceful when they're making them do stuff.
Yeah, it could be.
Um, but yeah, to go back a bit then, because we sort of jumped into when he's
Yeah.
found out. So we have this sort of climactic moment where he's almost about to leave, but then everyone comes in, including the witness and the detectives, and everyone's there at the police station. And the cops who picked him up initially finally like, okay, we need to process him now. Get him up, and the female cop starts patting him down.
I think this is done particularly well because at this point they've gone, well, there's no point in doing a breathalyzer now because if it was there, it's gone.
Yeah, it's been long enough. It's been a couple of hours now.
They're like, just take his details. So one of them's taking his details, and the other is reading out the case details of the the break-in, the murder. Yeah. So and these are going on at the same time, which is really fantastic because as like the details get further and further through on the case, she's getting closer and closer to finding him out.
Yeah, she's getting closer to the knife, and then there's this great moment where she feels it, and you can see it in her eyes. She feels a
knows
weapon
because she feels the handle, and she's like, okay, something's there, and then she goes down and feels the shape.
and it's right about this time as well where the detective's talking to the witness, and he's like, and you said he got a cab. He's like, no, 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 I didn't say he hailed a cab. I said he get in a cab.
Yeah. Like, it was his cab, and then
yeah.
she just looks at him. She's like, she knows.
Yeah, she's piecing it together, and then she starts taking it more seriously. So like, put your hands behind your head, then unlock your fingers, and she's like, by the book, we're getting really serious now, and we're and it's all done very well, and it all climax, of course, with her pulling out the knife, as the detective says, is describing the potential
knife,
murder weapon. He's like, yeah, possibly serrated, covered in blood, knife.
Yeah.
It's just as she pulls it out.
And that's when he shouts he didn't do it and attempts to run.
Yeah, that was another mistake.
Yep.
bad idea. Can't run from a police station.
Yeah, just don't.
Can't do that. No.
It's especially funny given how he saw earlier on the big man come in and like being taken down by like 6 cops.
Yeah.
It's like you know what happens if you try and like
Yeah. Now that you
if you
mention
don't
that,
cooperate.
yeah. Now that you mention that's a really good bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then of course we get back to all the stuff that we said before with the processing and interviewing him and taking DNA from him and swabs and various things, including his penis. And he asked if it was going to hurt, which it did not.
No, but it still looks uncomfortable, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. I mean, I think having to get your junk out in front of like 3 strangers while they swab at it is just
Yeah.
not pleasant. Especially when they think you have just murdered someone.
Yeah.
And potentially raped, because the way he sort of asked questions, like he has to clarify that he didn't force her, like it was consensual.
Yeah, like he thinks a potential motive is that she said no.
Yeah.
So it was like lashing out in anger. Which is, again, it's a fair line of questioning.
Oh, it is, yeah, obviously that happens, but this, like, it's painful for us because we know it wasn't. We know he's, at least as much, unless he did something and blacked out and he can't remember it, which is possible, given the amount of shit he was on. From what we've seen, he seems to be innocent.
Yeah.
And it's painful for us, for him to fuck up the answers to questions that make him look worse.
Yeah. And even if he's not innocent of the actual crime, we know that wasn't the motive. We know he didn't rape. So it's like, that is uncomfortable still.
Yeah, so yeah, even if it ends up that he did kill her for some reason in a drug-fueled rage or whatever, we know that part's accurate. So it's playing with how we perceive things and us picking up details, which is why I think the show is very good. I think it trusts us to pay attention.
Yeah, you have to.
And I think that's very good. It's good TV when you can say that you should pay attention and you're rewarded for paying attention.
Yeah, definitely.
So then he's sitting in the jail cell, and this is when John Turturro comes sauntering in in his sandals.
This is quite near the end at this point.
Yeah, he's in his flip-flops, and he's coming in. It becomes clear that he's a lawyer. He talks to one of the other random people that have been in that night, and it's when he's walking. He's actually leaving the station, and he catches Naz sitting in the cell, and it's when he gets outside. He starts talking to one of the cops who's just randomly standing about. What's that kid in for? He stabbed some girl, blah blah blah, and he comes back in and he makes a point of going to see him, saying that he's representing them, and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that his character just took a look at him sitting there in the cell and made a judgment call
Yeah.
that he might be like, this kid looks innocent, or
Yeah.
you know, I think that's what he was thinking. Like, I can't.
No, that was my assumption too.
Yeah.
That he looks like he needs the help and didn't do it.
And of course he doesn't know all the case because later on he doesn't know that the girl died at this point, because later on he finds out that she died, and he's really like, oh shit, I've just taken a massive case here. But when he's asking questions again, it's like going through these details. Like, did they tell you that you had to talk to them? Did they read your rights? Like, he's looking for flaws in their thing. This is before he even knows exactly what the crime is and
Yeah,
what it
he's
ended
just
up with.
immediately trying to figure out what the process has been and if there is anything he can use, no matter what the case is.
Yeah, but you get the impression by the end of the conversation, by the time he finds out what actually happened, that it feels kind of hopeless. He's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, okay, all of this. And then the episode, finally he gets his phone call. The Turturro gets him to gets his phone call, of course, and he phones his dad and tells him what's happened. And then, I don't know if they intended this, but the episode for me ended on a proper laugh. I thought it was funny, the ending.
No, I think it is, where he goes out and realizes his cab's not there.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because we've known the entire episode that car's gone, and there's just something really funny about him rushing out to the car, knowing that something's wrong, but not knowing the car's not there, and then just standing there on the street as it cuts to credits actually really made me laugh.
It did as well.
So that's the night of episode 1. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, even down to like the lawyer, where his reaction when he finds out who's got the case. What's his name? Box. So the detective? Where he's talking to the guy at the desk, and he's like, "Who's they?" I think he says Box. I think is the name. And he just goes, "Fuck." It's like ah, damn it, this is actually a real case.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal first episode. I cannot wait for more of this now. My only concerns would be maybe is that now that we've had the opening, which was very like tense and like slow and methodical, and the tension of the night of it happening, like is the 7 more episodes going to be able to maintain that kind of feeling? I hope it is, but it's just like, it's one potential pitfall.
Yeah, it's a fair concern, I think, but it's so we can only just wait and see, really.
But I've got a few facts to alleviate the fears of that.
Oh, do share.
The director of this episode is directing all 8.
Okay, I'm done. That's fine.
Well, actually, to be more specific, he is directing the first 4, and then he is co-directing the last 4 with the showrunner.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Safe hands.
Yeah, and of course he's also written this episode, so he's, it feels like we're getting something that's been very thought out, very artistic, from 2 main minds.
Yeah, it's not like a big writer's room sort of deal and spread out across everyone. This is a passion project of a few people.
And it's worth mentioning, the showrunner wrote 7 out of the 8 episodes. For some reason he didn't write episode 4, I'm not sure why, but he wrote the other 7, so it feels very contained to those core minds, which excites me, because
it is, because in recent years we've seen that. I mean, Mr. Robot, first season of True Detective, it's contained.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to say something that might prove unpopular with people as an opinion.
Go on.
At least from this first episode, I think this is stronger than True Detective season 1. Based just first episode to first episode.
To first episode, I would agree, but it's also a little bit unfair because this did have more time to do what it wanted.
True, but what I liked, what I liked about this though, was how it was directed and the way it methodically went through things. Like, if it didn't have that much time, it just meant that more of it would be like, it just ended sooner, I feel.
Probably.
You gotta cut this off when they, like, when that thing happens with a knife and she pulls it out, that could have been the end of the episode. They could have cut to black there.
You could have done, yeah. That's fair.
So I don't think them having more time is necessarily an advantage in that sense.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fair. I'd agree it is probably better at this stage. There's no guarantee that it will be by the end of the season.
Yeah, of course not. This could tank dramatically next episode. But
first episode, this is probably better.
So, because one of my even when True Detective was good, and it was good, season 1 of True Detective is a good season. I still complained in that season that the case was a bit too convoluted, and there was lots of details. Like there were scenes when they'd been in the police station, like throwing around names and like
Yeah.
places, and I'd be like, I can't really follow this beyond just getting what they're talking about from their reactions. Whereas with this, I feel like I know I understand everything. I know the ins and outs. I feel like a detective watching this.
That's true. It's a very different though, because I think with True Detective, it never aimed to be that.
Oh no, of course not. But I think for me, everything in this is like clear in my mind.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Every detail sticks with you. Like, you see the knife, you know exactly where it's going. You know what the knife looks like. It's a distinctive-ish looking knife.
Yeah.
See the guy in the hearse, you go, right, okay, that's a hearse. That's different.
Yeah.
You see the security cameras and and the police dash cam, and you're like, right, these are probably going to come up as evidence.
Yeah.
And because they're different to everything else, they stick out and stick with you.
So that is so raving about this.
Yeah, I cannot believe how good this was. I really
this
can't.
is definitely the surprise so far of the summer. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Instantly now it's the highlight. Now we have to wait 2 weeks now for the second episode because they still have to air the first episode. But I will be. And the funny thing is, when I told you it was up early, you got annoyed because now I have to remember stuff. But I will say this: I don't think we're going to have an issue.
No, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
We said it when we watched, what was it, Outcast, and we were like, yeah, a few details, a little bit fuzzy. That's not going to be an issue.
No, this one, they are all cemented in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. God damn, that was good.
Fantastic. Probably the best single episode of TV we've done this year so far, maybe? I'm trying to remember what finished. I mean, but obviously Better Call Saul comes close to it in a lot of ways.
The last couple of episodes of Game of Thrones are up there for me, personally.
But no, the point is, this is like...
Yeah, this is something else.
I don't want to sound like an elitist, snobbish prick, but this is like top tier TV here.
This is what I feel like last year. I went into Mr. Robot knowing nothing. I didn't even know what the show was about. I just heard, oh, people are watching Mr. Robot. I'll watch the first episode. And then I was hooked. I was like, this is special.
Yeah.
I feel the same way with this. I didn't know what this was, but I was like, I'm going to try it. And it's pretty fucking special.
So, how nice it is to have that feeling once in a while. It's nice that we've essentially had that once per year for a few years now. Because we had Mr. Robot last year. See, the year before that, you did have True Detective, and you also had Fargo season 2, more than season 1, I'd say, last year.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh shit, this is really great. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But no, this was quality. It was quality TV and it was quality filmmaking, which I think is.
It's the sort of thing you only get once or twice a year.
Yeah.
It's special when it happens.
And we know right away, limited 8 episodes, and then it's done.
That's so refreshing. It's like you can't fuck up and try and extend it. You can't go leave us on a cliffhanger. You're just going to give us a story, and I feel like it worked out. Like 11/22/63, like perhaps had some issues over the series as a whole, but I think it benefited from being a limited series. Like, this is the story.
Yeah, if anything, our complaint at the end of the season was it could have benefited from being an even more limited series.
It could have, but the point is, like, we find ourselves, these single season stories are better. Like, even True Detective, that first season was just, that was it. And it's a trend that I'm noticing.
But we don't talk about season 2.
No, that doesn't exist. What's season 2?
Oh my god. Alright, guys, consider the night of a 8-episode heartfelt apology for True Detective season 2 from HBO. It kind of feels like that. But no, fantastic, guys. Make sure you shouldn't have sat through the spoilers if you hadn't, but for some reason you did. You need to watch it. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's the night of. So we'll definitely be covering that as it airs. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Thoughts, theories, all this kind of stuff. Like and subscribe, all that jazz helps us out a lot. This has been kind of a long review actually, but it was a long episode, so thanks very much. We will see you next time.